And if you are joining us and logged into your Twitter account, please go ahead and log in, or if you're not logged in, please do log in, and you can engage in conversation. Shelly and I will be talking about demystifying mindfulness, and we'll get started in about 10 or 15 minutes on the topic. But if you'd like to log into your account, you're able to share the show as well as ask questions. You can write in the chat box, etc.
Hey, Dara, can you hear me?
We'll get started in just one moment. Hi, Shelly. Can you hear me?
Hey there.
Oh, I think I'm on.
Yeah, can you hear me?
There we go. Now I can hear you.
I can hear you. Great.
Awesome. What a nice view back there. I see trees, nice and shiny. I love it.
Yeah, it's my office here at home, and it used to actually be a patio that I guess 2 owners ago, before we bought this house, they enclosed a porch. And so there's always windows everywhere. It's really great in here, actually.
I love that. Yeah, I'm in my upstairs office now. It's a work in progress, so no art on the wall just yet, but I'm getting there. Well, that's fabulous. Well, you can go ahead and go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm excited. This is the first time I've ever done this before.
I know, I saw it said, welcome to Blab. I'm like, oh, nice. I love it when people introduce us to new platforms, right? You never know what we're going to like better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went ahead and shared it on my Twitter. You can do the same on the top left for those of you in the room. You can tweet a little bird. You can post it to your Facebook as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. We are recording, and we have Shelly Pernot with us today. And I'd like to kind of just set up what the Coach Roundtable is, who am I, and then we'll sort of get started where she will just share some really amazing, rich content around mindfulness. So my name's Dara Carrillo. Everyone, welcome to the Coach Roundtable. This is a community for coaches. It's about us getting together to learn, share from each other, and build community together and build our businesses. And so this platform has evolved to now inviting an expert coach in different areas each week. And so if you have an interest, please do message me at dara@daracarrillo.com or dara@MuseStreamCoach, and I'd love to feature you on my show. And so I am the co-founder of MuseStream Personal Branding, and so founded it with a partner in 2014. And we're about elevating self-efficacy and self-value one conversation at a time. So really increasing your self-knowledge so that you're able to really communicate who you are really well to others, really leverage your strengths, connect to your values, and live your best life. And I'm also a personal branding coach at the University of Texas, serving the MBA students. So how are you today, Shelly?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And
looking forward to my first Blab.
This is awesome. Yeah, there's so much amazing content on here. You can go to different shows and they have different focuses. So yeah, definitely check it out sometime to kind of look through and see the different content, people that are getting interviewed. It's really amazing.
Sure.
Yeah. So what's going great for you right now in your business? What are you excited about?
Well, at the moment, because I started up in August of this year, and it's been pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah.
Ever since I started, and in a good way, in a really good way. Mm-hmm. So I've been growing my life coaching practice, and I've got a number of folks that I'm coaching around, mainly issues related to career change, but relationship issues too. A few different aspects when it comes to life coaching. So I've been working on that. And I'm really excited about a course that I piloted with the University of Texas at Austin back in September that we're actually launching in the spring semester. And this is all on mindfulness, so which relates to the topic we're discussing today.
Wonderful.
So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I'm really excited that's going to be up soon. And it's going to be offered through the Professional Development Center, which you can register for online through their website. And I can't wait to see it actually, get off and running. And we may be looking to actually do some for corporations as well, like actual intact teams, and bring that into corporations, which would be really fun. So that's a really big project I've been working on, which looks like it's finally getting close to completion. And then I've been doing a few other leadership development projects for some local government here in Austin, and been having a lot of fun with that too.
I love that. Very full calendar, very productive. It sounds like things are kind of coming to full circle. I love that. Yeah, there's nothing more exciting than being able to have this amazing idea and start planning it and then executing it. There's something really gratifying in that, isn't there?
Absolutely.
That's fabulous. Yeah. Congratulations. I know Shelly and I just went to a ICF, it's ICF local chapter holiday party last night. So it's just one more opportunity for us to kind of get together with other coaches, and highly recommend that if you're a coach either in the Austin area or wherever you're from, just really to start connect either to your local ICF chapter or other virtual chapters through the IAC. And just in general, reach out to coaches that you know, because I think that's one of the most important things we can do is just connect, right? Connect with other coaches who are on our same path, right? So someone who's just starting out, someone who's 2 years out, and someone who's been doing it for quite a while. There's like 3 levels of mentorship that I keep hearing is the key ingredient to really support you as you start your practice. Well, if there's any other coaches in the room, we'd love to hear from you if you have any questions in general before we get started about coaching, or if you're a coach, please do share what's your coaching practice and where you're from, maybe how many years you've been doing it. We'd love to kind of get to know our audience a little bit. And I don't know if you have a chance to share in your networks too. There's on the left side, you can tweet or post to your Facebook as well. So if there's no questions, and I think there's some viewers in there, but you're not logged into your Twitter, so I would highly recommend or suggest you log into your Twitter so you can engage in the conversation. And then perhaps towards the end of the show, we might even invite you on a panel during the last 15 minutes. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Shelly Pernot is a native Texan, and she spent most of her career in the Middle East and in Europe, which that's amazing. Reading through your bio, I was seeing there's this common thread, right? So you're really connected to leadership roles, even entrepreneurship, sort of really opening up dialogues and creating some really great change within organizations, which is, you kind of find that you really enjoy doing that. So you're really passionate about development, and so that's what led you to sort of starting your coaching practice. So I'd love to hear more about what that looked like for you and what led you to develop True North Development.
Sure. So thanks for the intro. And a lot of my career prior to starting True North Development was with the oil industry. So that's my background, actually, is energy. And that took me to a lot of far-flung corners of the world, like Tunisia and Qatar, and spent a lot of time there working. And it was really great. It taught me a lot about working with different cultures, about cross-cultural collaboration, and gave me a real appreciation for an international work environment. I had, my background actually was in risk management at the time. And I had worked for ExxonMobil for a number of years. And then I had my own risk management consultancy in London called SAS Resources. And I had a number of energy clients there. And I eventually found my way back to the US. I guess it was in 2009. And after I finished my MBA, and decided to go and work for BP. So that was the energy company at the time that, made the most sense for me. So started working with BP, and I don't know if you remember a little incident in 2011, but we spilled a little bit of oil in the Gulf of Mexico.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and it was more than just a little bit of oil, unfortunately. And at that particular time, I was still working in risk management. And so I was working with a lot of senior leaders at the time, and the longer I was at BP and the longer I was kind of dealing with the Deepwater Horizon incident, it became really clear to me that there obviously were a lot of factors that contributed to it, but ultimately it was really a failure of leadership. And I started to believe that there were a lot of things at the company, particularly in the culture around having honest discussions, that really needed to change. So I became very passionate about that. And I started looking for ways, how can I, even in my current role in risk management, start to do something about this? And managed to, whether it was by hook or by crook, get a chance to talk with the head of leadership development at BP, who then hired me, and thought, okay, yeah, she I think has a good point of view, and she's got a lot of business expertise. So was able to make the transition into that group. And then actually got to start working on leadership development on a daily basis. And a big part of that was setting up the framework for folks to be courageous and to have more honest discussions at BP. And so did a lot of work in that space. And yeah, so that was the last thing that I did prior to starting True North in August of this year. And I've really been enjoying it ever since. So yeah, I found my way into development very haphazardly, kind of by accident.
Yeah, I was looking over,
but I really enjoy it.
Yeah, looking at your background, you can sort of see that. You can sort of see how that's progressing and sort of transforming over time, and that led you to. So you identify your business as coaching and training business. So tell us about your programs and services.
Yeah. Sure. So I offer a couple different services. So I'll start with the life coaching side of the business, and which I really enjoy. So that's, and you can find this all, by the way, on my website too. And I'll give the website link. But the life coaching side is where I do one-on-one coaching for individuals. And it could be that they're wrestling, with a difficult point in their life. They've gotten to a point where, I'm not really sure that I'm in the right career. I'm not really sure that I'm living my passion or I'm living my dreams. So it's often folks who get to a point in life, and it's the way I like to say it, like you wake up one day and you think, is this all there is?
And I think we can all relate to that. Like, anyone who's drawn to coaching can relate to that.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks can relate to that, actually. And I can relate to that to a large extent. I mean, that's why I started that side of the business and became a coach. I reached a point in my career where I was doing risk management, and I thought, okay, this is really great. I'm making a lot of money, but I'm not really enjoying this. I don't really understand how I wound up here. And quite often, we do all those things that we think we're supposed to do, tick off the degree, tick off the certification, whatever it is. We get to that point, and then it's like, really? So that's my side of the business that really speaks to that particular issue. So I spend a lot of time helping people get really clear about what their vision is, what their mission is. What's your mission statement? Let's write a mission statement. Let's look at your vision. Let's get energized about it. And then I help folks clear the roadblocks out of their way, because we do a much better job of getting in our own way than anybody else could ever do to us.
Right, absolutely.
So that's a big part of that work, is kind of clearing those gremlins, so to speak, that are lurking in the deep shadows. So that's the life coaching side. And then I've got the leadership development side, which is a carry-on of the work that I was doing at BP, really. So very similar to what I was doing there. I was doing a lot of executive coaching prior to me departing. I was doing a lot of training facilitation and designing training programs and delivering those, and so I'm still doing that, like the one that I'm doing for the University of Texas. I really enjoy facilitating groups as well, and helping people learn new skills. So those are the two sides of the business, so to speak, and services that I offer. So it's either corporations or individuals.
Wonderful. Yeah. So what are you drawn to in particular? And we'll get into the topic in just a moment. But I'm curious about. So I relate to a lot of what you're saying, right? So as a personal branding coach and trained in positive psychology, I really see the value in reminding people that we don't have to live this fractured experience, right? So there's a way that we can really deconstruct who we are, know who we are. It's through that, like that workshop I co-hosted or co-facilitated at ICF. It's really about transcending those fears to really through our own self-mastery, right? So that we can really move through those barriers and blocks. So that sounds amazing. It's very exciting to hear there's other colleagues out there doing this good work too. I love it. Absolutely. So yeah, let's get started on the topic. So let's just start with the beginning, right? So tell me, what's mindfulness? What does that mean in your work?
Sure. So so there's a definition I have for it, and this is the one that I share when I'm teaching for UT. It's the practice of focusing awareness in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if there's a whiteboard, I would write it on there. But yeah, yeah. So the practice of focusing awareness in the present moment, and each one of those words is very intentional. And it was picked for a very specific reason. And when I'm often teaching this topic, I'll ask folks, and I'll ask you, or anyone who's out there in this lab. I'm not sure exactly how this works. Just speak up. But why do you think we call it a practice? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
why did mindfulness be the practice?
Yeah, and so it's interesting and I love this title, by the way, demystifying mindfulness at work or at any point in your life, right? It's like understanding what is that. Every time I do introduce it to clients, they're like, I don't get that, because it's hard to hold on to, right? It's hard to understand what it is. But to really, for me, the practice is the consistency, right? So it's just kind of showing up every day and just sitting in the present moment by looking and focusing on whatever it is you're working on. And I think for me, I find mindfulness through gratitude. And so I'm one of the ones that lives in the future, right? So I check off something and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Next. So I'm working on, being more present. So that's what it means to me. And Margot says, because mindfulness is a journey, we never fully achieve perfection. Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I love what Margot, just wrote there, because it is a journey, and relating that back to when I teach yoga, one of the things I tell my yoga students is, if you're fixated on the posture itself, it's not about the posture and the end destination with the posture. It's about the journey that it took you to achieve it. And so I totally agree with that. And that's specifically why, the way I define it is a practice, because quite often folks will look at it as a state. I achieve a mindfulness state, and then I'm like a levitating monk, like, and it's funny what you'll see actually out there if you type in, seriously, if you type into Google Images mindfulness, you'll see some stuff come up, and it's like, okay, it's this person like a monk with a white flowy robe, and they've got like this cool hair, and they're doing like cool mudras, and that's mindfulness. And if that's mindfulness that's out there, then I'm never actually going to achieve that. And that's just BS, frankly. I mean, the bottom line is, if that's what you start to fixate on and start to measure yourself by that, you're never going to be able to live up to that. Not in the society we live in, in these times. So it's really helpful to get the focus off a state, and that this is really more of a practice.
I love hearing that. So tell us how you do that in your own life, right? So often it's interesting how we sort of practice that for ourselves, and then we go out and show others. And so what does that look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I actually have, you probably can't even see it, but, and I'm not, hold on, let me turn my computer. I actually have a meditation desk right here in my office.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, there's Buddha right there. Yeah. All right. So yeah. And that's kind of an unconventional table, because there's relics from all sorts of world religions there. But ultimately, I have a meditation practice that, at some points is regular, and sometimes in my life it's not as regular. So I'm just going to be honest about that. Mm-hmm. I try to meditate every other day for about 20 to 30 minutes. So for me, that's what a regular practice looks like. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, there's a lot of different ways to practice mindfulness. Ultimately, it's not just about meditation. Yeah. I also do hatha yoga, and I practice that probably on average about 5 times a week. And it's something I really enjoy doing as well. So these are what I would call, I guess, the formal ways of doing it, so to speak, or the ways that, like, when you think about mindfulness, meditation might come to your mind, and it's definitely helpful in getting regular about your practice, you know, and starting to see the benefits. But it doesn't always have to be like that either. But that's what works for me. What about you? Do you do anything?
You know, and it's one of those things where it's on my list, you know, but I know that when I do, so for me, it's more active meditation. So I think, you know, I've done some of the Oprah Deepak Mindfulness 21 Days, which was quite lovely. I used that when I was at St. Edward's quite often, actually. During lunchtime, I would just go out, you know, and sit nearby a big oak tree and do 10 minutes of meditation. And it's amazing just to pause and stop. But so lately, what that looks like for me, it's probably once or twice a week, but it's not the whole traditional type of meditation. It's a hike. So I just allow the quiet, and I allow my thoughts to kind of flow, and I sit and I think and sit about where I'm at right now. So it's that practicing that presence. So that's what that looks like for me.
Right.
So just kind of turning off technology, reconnecting to nature once or twice a week, and that's what that looks like. I would love to be able to just be one of those people that gets up at, you know, 6 a.m. and has my meditation. You know, I can't. I'm not there yet, I guess. But I do. It's quite lovely going on my hikes, and it's more reason to connect to it, right? It's like I know it. I know I actually love it, and so I know the benefits of it. But yeah, speak. Thank you for asking me. So thinking of benefits. So there's lots of research out there that I've read, and I'm sure that you've come across around the mental and physical benefits of being mindful. So tell me what research you found, or how do you know that to be true in your practice?
Yeah, so I'll speak a little bit about that personally, you know, and share a little bit of my story and how I came to know how beneficial it is, and then I'll reference a few resources I think that might be really helpful for people on today's Blab. So my journey into it really began with yoga, and it's funny because I didn't have any inclination to ever go to a yoga class until I was drugged there by an ex-boyfriend years ago. And the only reason I went was because he's this really hot Norwegian guy I used to date named Jan, and I'm like, you know, if Jan says we're going, I'm going, right? And so I share that actually because it's a bit irreverent, but you know, it's not always what's important, what brings us to this. It's just that we get there somehow. So I started practicing in 2009. I started doing a form of yoga called Bikram yoga, actually. You may or may not have heard of it. There's a lot of stuff out there about it. You know, Bikram is quite a character, so there's a bit of controversy even around him sometimes. But I started the yoga in 2009, and even though Jan and I broke up, I kept going back. And I started noticing a number of changes. And the first change that I noticed was my physical being, my physical self. You know, at the time, I was a smoker. I was also a heavy drinker. I probably was 2 or 3 dress sizes bigger than I am now. And so I started noticing a lot of changes in my body. I started feeling a lot more fit. I didn't want to smoke as much, although I still was to a certain extent. And so the patterns I had developed over the years to deal with the stress and strain of the job, you know, in London for all those years in risk management, you know, I started to feel that a lot of these things just weren't working for me anymore, and started seeing those changes in my body. So the first was the body. The second thing I started to notice was that my mind slowed down, in the sense of, I guess the best way to explain this is like the mind monkey. Like I call it like the little monkey that just sits right there and is constantly doing this all day long.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah, I think we all have one.
Yes,
but, you know,
I don't know. It's like
exactly. So yeah, we might call it different things, but yeah, we've all got something to that effect. So I started noticing kind of more space, you know, in between the thoughts, and I started to feel my mind just started to slow down a little bit. And it wasn't just me that noticed this, actually. A lot of my colleagues were actually mentioning to me, you seem so much calmer. You know, we actually see a real change in you. What is it that you're doing that's different? Because this is really amazing. And I thought, that's interesting. Okay, so people are really noticing a change. And then the third thing that happened for me was that I started to get a lot more in touch with my spirit. And like, what does that mean, spirit? You know, I mean, I don't want to get so esoteric here, and that's not the intention. But what I mean by that is, I started realizing that there were a lot of things and directions I had taken in my life that really weren't working for me. In terms of what I was pursuing as a career, in terms of, you know, I wasn't living my dream. I wasn't living my vision. I didn't have a clue what my mission was ultimately in life. And because my mind had calmed down, you know, and I wasn't rushing from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, I actually could see now that these things really weren't working, and I knew I had to do something about it. So that's what I mean when I say I got more in touch with my spirit. I got more in touch with really the essence of who I was once you start to clear all the crap out of the way. So,
yeah, no, you know,
so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'll pause. No, I'll definitely pause there. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, no, I love it. So when I hear you saying that, you know, there's a lot of positive psychology that speaks to that being your being self, right? You can either refer to it as your spiritual self or as your being self. And so it's just, how are you showing up? That's really connected to a deeper sense of purpose, a deeper sense of yourself, for lack of a better word. But yeah, they refer to it as either the spiritual self or a being self. So whatever language people are comfortable with, they can identify with that in that way. It's just, yeah, how do you connect to your deeper source, whatever that looks like for you? Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. You know, I've heard it described in many different ways. And, you know, I don't know if it's Gestalt psychology, where they talk about, like, you know, in order for a human being to fit in the world, you break pieces of yourself off, you know, in an effort to try to fit in. And then eventually you start to realize who you are, and you've got to integrate all that back.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. But that, yeah, in essence, that's what was going on for me. And it was really awesome. So that led to a lot of positive changes in my life. So at that point, I really got the gumption to switch careers. I quit smoking. You know, I didn't spend all my time in the pub anymore. So there were a lot of very positive changes that started to take place. And these are changes that anyone can experience. I mean, so to make this a bit broader now and take the focus off just me personally, you know, when you talk about mindfulness, there are so many benefits associated with it. And one of the biggest ones is reduced stress. And the ability to cope with the unknown, you know, and particularly, you know, given the fact that we're often in such fast-paced careers and we have such busy lives, but anything that's going to enable you to better cope with stress and achieve more work-life balance is going to be fantastic. You know, they often tout productivity increases as being related to increased mindfulness. Satisfaction in the workplace, so employee engagement, for instance, is also linked to mindfulness. And there's a number of institutes that, because I don't actually do research in this space myself, so I'll point you to the institutes that actually do the research. There's one of them called the Langer Institute, and it's Dr. Ellen Langer actually heads this up, and she's been dubbed the mother of mindfulness. She was the she's at Harvard University. Yeah, she's at Harvard University, and she was the first woman in the psychology department there. And she's got the institute, the Langer Institute, and they look into mindfulness, and they look into the application of mindfulness with respect to the workplace. You know, and what are the benefits of that? They've done a lot of research. You can go out there, you can find their website. They've got a website. They've got white papers that they publish. They also do a lot of work with corporations. So, if you wanted someone to help consult on a mindfulness project, that would be one, place that you could actually reach out to. The other place that I would point to is the Institute for Mindful Leadership. And the last name of the woman who founded it escapes me. It's Janet, and I can't remember her last name, but she used to be the former general counsel for General Mills, and was so energized by a retreat that she went to, a mindfulness retreat, that she quit her job, actually, as general counsel, and set up this institute. Where they study mindfulness, and they've got a faculty. They do programs for corporations. They do retreats that are open enrollment, so you could actually go on there tomorrow and find one and enroll on that. So there's a lot of resources out there that and I've got even more that I can maybe send you the links to, Dara, if that would be helpful, and you can share with listeners. But there's a lot of sources out there, and there's a lot of really great work being done in this space, and research that's been done.
That's amazing. So I'd like to kind of, coming back to the topic broadly, right? So demystifying mindfulness at work. And so you kind of deconstruct a little bit about what that's looked like in your life, really those benefits that helped you personally, sort of the research behind it. And so you talked about some of the broader benefits of, being more calm, coping with stress successfully, some satisfaction, increasing really meaningful and effective engagement with coworkers. So when you think about mindfulness at work, what do you think are some ways that people can practice this within the work? Is it within the workplace? Would they be like, what does that look like at work, outside of work? How can they start? What are one or two ways they can start incorporating that?
Sure, because and I'm really glad you asked that, because it's really important for me to be as practical about this as possible, and that's why this is entitled At Work. Because it's again, I would always advocate to do a regular meditation practice, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, to go and sit outside, as you were mentioning earlier. That may not always be possible. So there's a few things that I would point to, and there's a technique called square breathing. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this. I learned about it back in August at a meditation retreat I was actually doing up in Colorado. But it's also, what's also really interesting about this is that it's used by the U.S. military, which is quite a different organization, than a Buddhist meditation retreat. And they use square breathing as a way of helping soldiers center themselves, particularly in battle. When you're going into a war zone, you've got a gun. And so you can equate that to the workplace sometimes. Maybe it's a difficult meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. There can be some really stressful work environments out there, for sure.
Absolutely. So how it works is, so if you think about what a square looks like, it's got, it's equal on all four sides, right? And it's got 4 90-degree angles. So just visualize that for a second, and you're going to inhale for a count of 4. You hold that inhaled breath for a count of 4. Then you exhale for a count of 4, and then you hold that for a count of 4. So it's 4, 4, 4, 4. Inhale for a count of 4, hold that for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, hold that for a count of 4. So why don't we try it?
Yeah,
that was on the line too.
Like move me, like pretend we're in a workshop and move me through that. Yeah, I like it.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to do it. I'll just talk you through it. But wherever you are, whoever you are, just get comfortable in your chair. Make sure you can feel your back against the chair. Feel your feet on the floor. Your feet are amazing. They're like grounding you to the earth. So feel that. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. That's it. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was using the square around our faces, so that works. Okay.
Yeah. So it's what it does, it just slows your brain down a little bit without letting you get like really tired. You know, because sometimes when you're doing breathing, if you inhale and if you exhale for a really long exhale, you'll start to feel super relaxed, but it will still kind of keep your brain going while at the same time it's slowing it down. So I tell people all the time, this is something that you can use, you know, right before you go into a difficult meeting. It's something you can use during a difficult meeting. You know, let's say something happens in the conversation, you start to feel a little bit of panic, or whatever it could be. You know, just start square breathing. Nobody will actually know you're doing it. So you could use that at any point during the day. You know, there's also forms of meditation that you can do where you're not even closing your eyes. So, and you could do those even in the workplace without probably anyone actually knowing that you're doing them. So I practice a form of meditation where I have my eyes open. So I could even be sitting at my desk and just having like, you know, a quiet 1 or 2 minutes, and no one would actually know.
Nice.
What I'm up to. Covert, yeah. I mean, there's also forms of walking meditation where, you know, you're really thinking about holding your body, you're thinking about your feet and feeling your feet on the ground. You know, you could do that in your office, you know, for a few minutes. There's also, you know, because we don't often take advantage of just the ordinary, I think. So one of the things we explore when I did a course for the University of Texas is I have people go outside and do a little bit of mindful observing. You know, just go outside and spend 5 minutes, you know, and really look at everything. And it's amazing how that sharpens up people's like sense of observation. It's truly amazing. Mindful eating, you could practice that. So, I mean, so for instance, what would mindful eating look like? You know, if you were going to eat mindfully.
Yeah, and I'll respond to that. I kind of am drawn to mindful observing, because when I think about my hike, you know, that's what I do. I notice the breeze on my face, or the sun coming in, or even the nice quietness. So I take in those sort of things when I'm doing my hike, and I think that's what makes it so pleasing, right? It's so relaxing, yet I'm stimulated. Yeah, so I love that mindful observing. It's definitely what I do during my hikes. I just didn't have the language for it. So that sounds, yeah, that's definitely what I do then. Mindful eating, I probably do more of, but I, you know, because I know my fiance often, you know, says, you know, you don't have teeth in your stomach, you know, it's like 1, 2, 3, swallow. So for me, recently, mindful eating has been just chewing more. It's just something that simple, chewing more and just slowing down, really allowing the flavors to sort of permeate my mouth, you know, just really kind of taste it. Yeah. So what does it look like?
I mean, and it's absolutely that. You know, I mean, how often do we even enjoy eating these days? I mean, because so often we're running from one meeting to the next, and you've got to like scarf a sandwich down as quickly as you can. You know, and again, the more you do that, the more you're just focused on the next email I have to send, the next phone call I have to make, the next thing on my to-do list that I have to cross off. You know, you're never focused in the present moment where you actually are right now. And going back to the definition of mindfulness, it's the practice of focusing awareness in the present moment. The present moment is the only thing that you ever have. If you think about that, nothing ever happens in the past or in the future. It happens now. And so, you know, it's interesting because when I teach this course for the University of Texas, you know, one of the things that, or the epiphanies that people will often have, is that I'm never really here. I'm never really here where I am right now. And to a large extent, you really miss out on quite a bit of life. Your happiness goes up when you're engaged in the present moment in what you're doing. So it's looking at all these different little opportunities to practice mindfulness throughout the day, whether it be eating, observing, square breathing, you know, focusing on your breath. And it's a practice, like we said earlier in the conversation, that you build up over time. One of the other things that I spend a lot of time having students look at when I actually do the mindfulness course is something that I call mindfulness blocks. And
say that again?
So these mindfulness blocks.
Okay.
So these are things that block us from being mindful. And so if you think back to what the definition of mindfulness is, and it's focusing awareness in the present moment. Mindfulness blocks are thoughts or feelings that take us out of the present moment. So basically things that are jerking us from being fully present. So for instance, it could be something like anxiety that I'm feeling of an upcoming project that I need to be working on. And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, I'm never going to get this done. My whole life is going to end.
Right.
All the things that go through your head, and the feeling of anxiety that starts to come with that. You're feeling anxiety about the future, but you're in the present now. And so it's learning to recognize those things that hook you. And I specifically use the term hook you and take you out of the present moment. And we've all got different hooks. We've all got situations that maybe happened in the past that we may focus on, and it'll hijack us out of the present moment. Maybe somebody wronged you in the past. For me, a recurring one that used to come up all the time was a disagreement I had with a family member. I just couldn't let go of, and it took me a long time to work through that. And I found myself getting angry about it, at different points, during my week. And so, it's these things that really detract from that. So it's developing that emotional intelligence where you start to feel these things coming up, and you can recognize them, and then start to choose, okay, what would be a better thought for me to be thinking in this situation? Something that's going to actually lead to a better outcome. But it's that self-awareness that's key.
Yeah, so I love that, because how many of us have those sort of recordings, right? Those old recordings that we just play over and over and over and over. Like if something happened yesterday, oh, that would have been a witty comment, or oh, why didn't I speak up, or why is this still bothering me? Like, what am I trying to learn from this experience? So it just keeps coming back until you allow yourself to pause in it. And so, like, that would be a good example. So you just said you can pause. If there are a list of maybe questions that you might ask, or maybe it's just sitting in the breath or sitting in the moment, what do you think would be one or two good questions you could ask yourself or reflect on, whether it's thinking or writing, to kind of break that cycle of those negative thoughts or old recordings?
So the first thing, the first question you could ask yourself, and I think this is a very powerful one, is what is this costing me? And particularly if it's that unpleasant thing that happened in the past, and we all tend to replay these tapes.
Yeah.
You sit there and you find yourself getting more and more angry about it. What's that really costing you to sit there and do that? Because that's generating a lot of energy that you're then only using to allow yourself to get mad with, and you're not doing anything with it. So that's one question that I would ask. The other question I would ask is, well, it's a couple of questions actually. The first is, when something like this comes up, typically there's a really deep-rooted thought underlying it. So for instance, so I'll give you an example. In a situation with my family member, at the risk of too much information, but my husband and I decided not to get married in like a traditional wedding ceremony in a church and all that. And so we did it our own way. And my family is very conservative and very traditional. And a cousin who, we've been really great friends ever since birth, pretty much. And we had a really close relationship. We got into an argument one day about the choices that we were making about about our wedding and how this is going to pan out. And so I carried that for a long time, I really let that anger me, and that would come up over and over again, particularly around the time of the wedding, because I was angry about it. But there was a deep-rooted thought that was underlying it. And the deep-rooted thought was that I had done something bad for me, this is what I was thinking for having my wedding this way. So the deep rooted gremlin that was really there was, I'm a bad person, or I've done something bad. And what I spend a lot of time with folks when we're dealing with mindfulness blocks is helping them get really, really clear on what's that emotion that you're feeling, what's the underlying thought that's driving it. So in my case, it was guilt and shame. The underlying thought was, I've done a bad thing, or I'm a bad person. And then starting to think about, okay, what would be a different thought you could think that might lead you to feel differently? And so I replaced that thought, actually, at a particular point in time, with a thought that was something of the likes of, my cousin really cares a lot about me, and she just wanted me to have the best wedding possible. And so I'm going to view this through a lens of love, and she was trying to be helpful. And once I was able to replace that thought, then things really shifted for me, actually. So it's asking those types of questions. What's the feeling? What's the underlying thought? And what could you think to get to a different outcome?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And so, that's very much rooted in positive psychology, right? And so how can we be more resourceful? How can we shift our current circumstances and be more resourceful moving forward and think more positively about it? Or what can we learn from that, right? Because that's not serving us. So that's beautiful. I love that series of questions. What is this costing me? What's the underlying thought and feeling? And how else can I look at this, pretty much, right, is what you were saying. How else can I look at this that wouldn't be so draining, that would be more positive and serve me well? I love that. Beautiful. And so if there's anyone in the audience now, if you have any thoughts or questions for Shelly around mindfulness or anything that we've talked about, we have about 13 more minutes. And so we'll continue talking, but we want to invite you to ask questions or comments, or even share with your networks as well. So if you said you were doing a mindfulness workshop at UT, so what might someone expect, or what are some takeaways they might get from attending that workshop?
Sure. So you're going to learn a lot about mindfulness blocks.
Awesome.
And so I'll start with that, actually, since that's what we were just speaking about. A big part of that day is actually spent working on blocks, because again, my intention with the course is to be as practical as possible about helping folks so they can go out there and really live as much in the present as possible. So working on the blocks is key to that. So we spend a lot of time where participants will identify their specific blocks that have been tripping them up, and then they'll do a number of partner exercises to actually work on how would they go about clearing some of those blocks, and putting together an action plan of things they could do going forward. So that's one thing. The other thing I would say is it's a highly experiential program. So, most of the day you're moving about, maybe doing mindful observing or mindful eating or mindful movement. So I haven't mentioned that yet, but we do some yoga postures as well. And we also spend a lot of time talking about some of the basics of meditation. And I actually spend a lot of time debunking most of the myths around it. And I heard you mention one earlier, which is I don't have enough time.
I know.
Which is a myth.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to call that out right now.
I don't make time. Yeah.
Because it actually doesn't have to take that much time. So we spend a lot of creative ways thinking about meditation. And have people think about, how could they implement some meditation techniques in their day-to-day life in a way that makes sense for them. We also spend a lot of time talking about the mobile phone. Friend or foe.
Yes.
So
mostly foe.
There's a lot that comes out of that.
Yeah.
Well, it all depends on your intention behind it. And I would argue that one of the most unconscious things that we do on a day-to-day basis is the way that we relate with our phone. And if you don't believe me, actually, there are apps that you can download that will actually track your phone usage. I challenge you to do it. You'll probably be freaked out. It'll tell you how many times you pick up your phone a day. Yeah. Which is a lot.
Gosh, there might, I wonder if there's a, speaking of mindfulness, just kind of that moment where you think, why am I picking up my phone right now? I love that language that you just used, is how do you relate to your phone? And I think just thinking about that just spurred all kinds of thoughts. Well, well, I'm not alone, or I have something to do, or I need to have something to do. Like there's a lot of underlying things that are drawing us to constantly pick up our phone. So yeah, that'd be cool to kind of learn more about that at your workshop. So, I'm blocking mindfulness blocks, really kind of get in the practice of different ways to do mindfulness practices, debunking some myths around mindfulness, and also mindful movement. Wonderful. And so I don't know if you have a chance to get that link for anyone that's in Austin, or if you're watching, you can put the link in the chat box before we close out the show, and you can even do it afterwards, I think. Although I'm not sure if chat is still available, but we can put it in the comment section if you upload this to your YouTube channel. So when you think about, what are some of your final thoughts around mindfulness? So we talked about today what got you into your coaching practice, how you incorporate, well actually I'd be curious to know how you incorporate mindfulness into your leadership coaching.
Yeah, and I would say even more broadly speaking, I mean, it's something I incorporate whether I'm doing life coaching or executive coaching. You know, a big part of coaching is really helping whoever it is that you're coaching to start to shine a flashlight, you know, on some of the roadblocks that they put in their own way. And we all do this to a certain extent. Even I do. And so I have coaches that coach me as well, because every coach needs a coach, as you very well know, Dara.
Absolutely.
But, you know, and it comes down to things like childhood experiences, you know, limited beliefs we picked up over the years. We have so many unconscious thought patterns that we don't even realize we have. And it's not until someone starts questioning that and asking those questions like, what is this costing you? You know, sometimes for someone to take a step back and realize, wait a second, you know, maybe I've got a choice here. Maybe I've got a choice to actually view this differently. Maybe I've got a choice to show up differently. You know, so it's really helping to illuminate the natural options and possibilities that are out there that we just may close off because we may make an assumption because something happened in the past that's going to happen again in the future, or we might have an interpretation of the situation that's not exactly valid, frankly. And so the more you can shine light on that and open that up for folks, the more possibilities they have, and folks that, you know, and folks can really start living large and stepping into the greatness that they innately have as a human being. I've always thought that coaching is just communicating the value of a human being to someone. You know, we all have so much value, and it's helping whoever you're coaching to see that.
Absolutely.
So they can bring it to the world.
Well, I love that. So it's interesting as coaches, we all have different things that we gravitate towards that we tend to sort of thread through all of our practices. And it sounds like that's a big significant part that's going to have some really amazing results with your clients. So I have really thoroughly enjoyed this topic. I love how the synchronicity of life happens. Looking for more language around mindfulness, knowing that that's on my list to kind of incorporate more in my life. So let's just do a recap of everything we've talked about today. So you started off sharing your story and what got you involved in coaching. So you're really drawn to and passionate about development. So now you're drawn to coaching and training. You talked about some of the ways that mindfulness can really benefit your life, helps you to cope with stress, you appear more calm, you have some physical and mental sort of benefits by actually having a consistent practice. You can really experience more job satisfaction and really more meaningful engagement with your coworkers. We talked about ways that you can actually do it at work. So some really practical, simple ways that you can incorporate at any moment, any part of your day. You mentioned talking about even just doing a minute or two of with your eyes opened meditation. You talked about doing square breathing, which that was an amazing exercise that we did live for you here today. And you also talked about doing mindful eating and mindful observing at any point during your day. So I think those are some beautiful tips that people can take away and use tomorrow, right? You can use today. If you're watching in your lunch hour, you can do this right after we talk even. So any final thoughts that you might have or things that you want to share about what's coming up for you, or final thoughts around this topic?
I mean, the only other thing I would say, you know, at this point, if you'd like to learn more about this, or if you're interested in how coaching can really can really start to open up those possibilities for you as an individual. You know, I've got a website. Feel free to go on there and explore. There's some interesting information about mindfulness there. And don't hesitate to contact me, you know, to set up a consultation, which is free. You can also sign up for the course at the University of Texas because it's open enrollment next year through their Professional Development Center. So it'd be great to see as many folks as possible on that.
Wonderful. And so truenorthdevelopment.com, is that right? Okay, beautiful.
truenorthdevelop.com.
Develop, okay.
DEVELOP.
I don't know why it's not coming up. Oh, there it comes. I did the wrong one. All right. Well, beautiful. Yeah. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed having you on my show, and I hope to have you back on different topics that you might be kind of evolving and sharing with the community. So for anyone that's out there, if you have any final thoughts or questions, you can do so in the next few minutes. But so yeah, so just to kind of close it out, I'm really excited to talk about what's kind of going forward with MuStream in the future. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to collaborate at some point since we have such complementary practices, but kind of really looking to be really intentional with 2016, right? So really kind of showing up and doing some of the core work that the community really craves, which is a lot about helping people overcome that fractured experience and feel more connected to meaningful work. So I'll be announcing our 2016 calendar in the next few weeks, which is very exciting. But yeah, thank you everyone who's watching and maybe even not logged in, but that's okay. You can watch this recording after today and feel free to share it with your networks as well. And thank you so much, Shelly. This was awesome. Have a great day.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this was wonderful, and I'm looking forward to seeing many exciting things from you in the Austin community. It's really been great sort of connecting with other awesome coaches who are really living big and going out there to make a difference, and you're one of them, so I'm glad, so happy to know you.
Thank you. I'm glad to know you too. Thanks so much, Dara.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.